How dare you?
Well, if you're wondering, and I see some of you guys in the chat are indeed wondering, this is a pre-recorded show. So there is your answer. Whoever asked it in the chat, Ballaboo. Welcome to Gavin and Games. It is Saturday night, which is the perfect night. I don't fucking know. It's the 17th of August. It's good to see everybody. Let us begin the show as pals do. When I vomited in the bed, I just laid in it. I'm not even fucking with you. What's up, fellas? Welcome. Hello, Carlos Ponce. Good to see you, bud. I wanted to let you know that, yes, of course, we are live tonight. That was 38 special, that if you're listening to the show after the fact, it will be edited out so I don't get a copyright strike. But that's, sometimes you got to start the show with a little bit of juice. And that's what we did. So it's good to see you guys. I hope your weekend is going well. I want to tell you a couple of things before we get started. I will be on, I want to say they're called Reforged Gaming now, right? Reforged Gaming, you know that show? That is coming up Monday, 9 a.m. We will be talking about, Concord, which is also coming out this week. It's not just the Black Myth week. It is also Concord, which is, I guess they're different audiences, but to some extent, but I don't know. I think that's a DOA game, to be sure. I hate to say it. I hope they're not a DOA studio because I think they're really talented, but I'll be curious what the gentlemen over there think about it, because my take is that it's probably not going to do very well based on playing the demo or the beta or what have you. Byte is asking, will I play it? Probably not. Not for $40. I got all I needed to get out of that game with the beta. And unless people are just like, oh my God, Jaffe, no, the final is so much better and blah, 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 then I have no intention of going back to it. But, it's possible. It's possible. But no, I will probably be playing Wukong. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Wukong. Would you like to know my pronouns in the chat? That's what you want. It's he, him. I don't mock pronouns. Pronouns exist. The whole pronoun thing is so backwards for people who are offended by it, because now if you live in a certain country, maybe, but in America, you can call anybody whatever the fuck you want to call them. You don't have to do anything when it comes to things like that. It's so a lot of people are, you can't tell me what to say. No one can tell you what to say. And the trans people I know, including my son and his friends, don't give a fuck if you call them by their proper pronouns. I mean, they care in that they'll decide you're either an asshole or not, but they don't think you should go to jail because of it. So a lot of people just overreact to it, but it exists because there is a younger generation that I think it's pretty cool that are trying to kind of say, hey, maybe gender is, we're a little obsessed with gender in this world, and let's kind of, maybe open it up a little bit. Why not? Let the kids have the fun. Let them do what they need to do to find their way. We're old. We're yesterday's model. Come on now. But do what you want. Just don't be mean to people. All right. But anyway, my point to that is those are my pronouns. He, him. Okay. Angel Gel, I'm not insulted by that. I know you're trying to troll. He says, thank you for telling me. I wouldn't have been able to tell otherwise. Totally fine. The last time I cared if somebody thought I was a girl, I was probably in 3rd grade. And I think somebody said, oh, you look like a girl because I got a really short haircut. And that really bothered me for all of maybe 20 minutes. And then I went home and watched, I think it was the Mickey Mouse Club or some such shit. So, hey, look at that. Wallace dropping money already. This is the nice version of Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life in the chat tonight. Wallace 007 has gifted a membership. Thank you, buddy. That has gone to our buddy Bulbo. Bulbo, you owe Wallace a pickle tickle, buddy. That's what he charges for it. But I appreciate it, Wallace, and welcome to the fold, Bubo. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I wanted to let you know. So I will be on Reforged Gaming. I'll put a link up. That'll be live 9:00 on Monday. We'll be talking about Concord. Before we get into the game news, although I do want to tell you on this very episode, speaking of the culture wars, I'm not fucking with you. There is a scientific study that released results this week that is going to make it, I don't know if it's very clear, but pretty clear why hardcore gamers seem to be very antagonistic towards woke culture, and specifically gamers. This is a real study done by real dudes in lab coats and glasses. That means they're smart about this issue, or in a roundabout way. So we're going to talk about that later. We're going to talk about Wukong first. Bulbo says, Jaffe, will you stream Wukong? More likely than not. The only thing is I may not buy it, but I probably will. But that's part of why I'm confused by all the reviews. The reviews of this particular game are really strange, and it opens up a bigger can of worms about a number of things that we'll get to in just a second. Logan, yes, and I Love the Weird is on the table for this week, maybe even tomorrow. Okay. I want to let you know something real quick. Speaking of I Love the Weird, or speaking of weird things, last night I had a lucid dream. Now, I've been having lucid dreams on and off for the last 20 years. I've never been able to have them on a consistent basis. A lot of times I'll have them, I'd say 70% of the time when I have a lucid dream. And if you don't know, it's a dream where you're aware you're dreaming, and then you kind of can fuck around in there, kind of like it's the world's coolest video game that has no limits, right? So 70% of the time, though, I wake up and I go, okay, was I dreaming or was I actually aware inside the dream? But last night, because I've just been, I had this really crazy drug trip the other day. We'll talk about that on the I Love the Weird. I have some audio from that. I've been doing a lot more reading. I've just been really diving deeper into some of this pseudoscience stuff and some of this spirituality stuff. And I want to say that, yeah, man, so last night's lucid dream, I was in this kind of warehouse, and there were these two dudes that I was making some kind of deal with, and I realized that I was dreaming. And I even said, this is really interesting to me, and I said to them, and I started trying to take my finger and put it through my hand, because that's kind of one of the tricks. If you think you're dreaming, try to put your finger through your hand, and if it goes through your hand, obviously you're dreaming. Either that or you're really in a great deal of trouble for a totally different reason. And as I started to do it, I said, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. I know I'm dreaming. And I turned to these two guys in the warehouse, and I said, you guys are characters in my dream. What do you think about that? And they just started to like scream, and they didn't like it. And then I said, well, okay, fuck it. I can't reason with you guys at this point. And so I just started to play, like in my mind, I'm like, take that guy and give him a really long giraffe neck and shit. And I just really started taking their body proportions and just fucking with them to see what would happen and stuff. And then I woke up, but it was the longest and most lucid I had been in a lucid dream, in my life. It was delightful. I loved it. I love this stuff. 55% of adults say that they have had at least one lucid dream in their life. Think about that. That's more than half you guys watching this stream. People who are really into it, they say they can do it about 23% once a month, so they can do it once a month. So it's pretty cool. It's good stuff. Look into it if you're interested. Okay, fellas, but let's move on. Like I said, in just a minute, we will get into Wukong. Later in the show, we will get into this scientific study that explains why core gamers may be physically, chemically, physiologically averse to woke culture as it relates to games. We'll talk about that. I do want to let you know this is a big week. Not only will I be on Reforged Gaming Monday, we'll be doing our own shows during the week, but we've got Gamescom, which will be live streamed. Everybody can watch. It'll be members only chat. That'll be coming up, I think, on the 20th, which is, I think, Tuesday or Thursday, or it's like 11 a.m. or whatever. Keeley says, hey, there's going to be lots of new game announcements. There's going to be Indiana Jones is going to show some stuff there, which is the thing I'm most excited to see. I actually want to see less about, oh, look, it looks like Indy, and more about what is the actual gameplay. And I'm sure it'll be great. I have a great deal of faith in machine games and whatnot. So, but that'll be coming up this week. And then, like I said, besides that and some of the peripheral streams that are happening, off of Gamescom. There'll be lots of news coming out of that show this week. And then I will be streaming Wukong. There's no way I'm not going to get it, because I'm going to get it, and I'm going to get it on PC, and I'm going to play it on GeForce. I can't not do it. I can't not do it. Let's just get into some brief news, because there's not a lot of news. It's the weekend, but there are a couple things I wanted to bring to your attention. This is more of a question for you guys and just the world itself. I'm a big Bloodborne fan. Out of all the, I've played 3 Miyazaki games. I've played the remake of Demon Souls, which I loved. I played Bloodborne, which I loved, and I played Elden Ring, which is my favorite game of all time. But as I've gotten more and more distance from Bloodborne, I really do start to say this. I just adore this fucking. I just adore this fucking game, and this is coming from PlayStation's official Instagram account in Italy. And just because they're tweeting stuff from Bloodborne doesn't mean anything, but it's not like they're tweeting stuff from Twisted Metal. It's not like they're tweeting stuff from, Destruction All-Stars. It's just like, why would, we know Bloodborne has some character cameos coming up in Astrobot. And if you missed the video yesterday, the leaked footage of Astrobot came out yesterday. Me, Bukkake Drive-By, a bunch of the guys in the stream last night, went through it to figure out what other cameos were in there. And it's not just first party stuff. We saw Ken from Street Fighter. We saw Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. We saw the Prince guy from Katamari Damacy. There was a lot of characters in there. So maybe that's why they're putting this out, but it is a little weird. It's like, you know what? Stop being a fucking cock tease, motherfuckers. If you don't want to remake the game, don't remake the game. Go take the original code that's never going to get remade and shove it up your butthole, Herman Holes. I don't care. But stop fucking teasing. Look at this, is one of the best levels in the game. And this is the level that starts with all those weird spiders out front. This is the Canehurst Castle. I fucking love this fucking game, man. It is great. And if you are like me and you like adventures and dark adventures, but you feel this may be too difficult for you, go online, get some tips, stream it. Because if it wasn't for the stream, I would have never gotten into this game, because I didn't understand the philosophy behind how to play it. It was my first real Souls game. But once I got it, man, what a just delicious, this is one of the best games ever made. And at the end of the day, this may be better than Elden Ring, but I'm not entirely sure. And I don't know, Sony has to know what they have here. And I understand that what you don't want to do is make a game like this without Miyazaki, but at the same time, you got a great fucking brand. How hard would it be to build a team to really just take over the Bloodborne license at this point? Maybe have Miyazaki be like a, overseer or whatnot. But I fucking love it. I fucking love it. But right now, I would say Fet's Frequency says for sure not better than the greatest of all time, Elden Ring. Elden Ring's my favorite game of all time, but when I finish it, and I'm almost done finishing it, my guess is I'm going to end, because being in this world is so much better than being in the Elden Ring world. And I love both of them, but this world is just so dark and cool and creative. I fucking love it. Anyway, so that's going on right now over on the PlayStation Instagram account in Italy, which is just kind of strange to me. It's kind of strange to me. Let me ask you a question. This news broke Friday. Plucky Squire coming out next month. It is going to be a PlayStation Plus, either at their highest tier or second to highest tier, day one drop. And I'm wondering what the reason is for that. Like, from a Sony standpoint. I mean, it looks like a great get. The people who've played it with the preview say it's excellent. I'm very much looking forward to this game. And if all you're seeing is this on your screen, this is the game that goes from 3D to 2D. I'll just bring up a YouTube video just so you can watch it while we're talking. So you're like, what, Jaffe? Just like a fucking 2D thing. What's this goddamn thing called? Plucky Squire. Plucky Squire gameplay. 2 days ago. There we go. So I'm wondering though, is Sony doing it? Oh, shut up, Magnum. Is Sony doing it because they're like going? They think this will get more subscribers. Is this more of one of those where we want to keep people from churning, and we think this is a good, stopgap because it's going to get great reviews and people are excited for it, and it may not get a lot of people to sign up, but it'll keep people from walking away from the service. I have no idea. I know I'm glad it's coming out for the service, so I don't have to buy it. I'm very much looking forward to this. It looks great though, and the people playing it say it's great, who've played the previews. So when moved by Sony, says Dylan. I'm playing it when it drops. Right? Absolutely. Me as well. Hello, Moops. Me as well. But I just kind of wonder what the philosophy is behind it, basically. Jaffe, why is Concord not free to play, says Geno Soul? I don't know. Should be. Fucking should be. Okay. It's very unique. Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of the this game, Plucky Squire reminds me of the mechanics of really probably, if not the best, the second best Zelda ever made, which is A Link Between Worlds is just delightful. And this kind of has that flavor to it. So this is coming out next month. As for what level of PlayStation Plus, I don't know. I have absolutely no idea what level. It's not the base level, so it's either the second level or the third level. Ravno says, I hate there's no physical collector's edition. I'm surprised by that as well. You're telling me there's not one? That seems like there would be one. I want to say they've kind of announced that, but no. Ravno says, why are you confused by the philosophy? It is the same as Game Pass, increase subs and retain subs. Well, I'm confused because Game Pass has part of its definition as a service is you're getting a lot of day one drops all the time. And you're also getting a lot of AA and pretty soon AAA drops, right? So their whole thing is getting you to subscribe with these marquee titles and keeping you around with these really cool smaller titles when they don't have a big game for that month or what have you. PlayStation Plus, 90% of it's old stuff. You're very rarely getting day one drops, right? So the motivation to subscribe in the first place probably can't come from that. Who's going to subscribe to PlayStation Plus to play AAA day one games? No one. You're subscribing mostly for the back catalog, at which point then I guess this exists so it's, I don't know. I guess it just exists so people don't churn. I have no idea. I don't use it all that much. I may cancel my subscription to it after this game. I mean, I'll turn it on and off as I need it, but I've been in there for their yearly thing for a long time, or 3 years at a time or whatever. And I use it maybe 2% of my gaming time. Hey, Soak7 Plays. By the way, welcome everybody watching on Twitch and Twitter. If you are watching on Twitch and you have an Amazon Prime sub and you want to toss it to Papa Jaffe, I would appreciate it. Thank you much. And if you're considering liking this channel, like the channel, be a member, subscribe, all those good, you know how it goes, blah, 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 blah. This is the biggest D&D moment since Baldur's Gate. What is, Louis Love, that the Punisher's playing with Karen Page, isn't that her name in the Daredevil? Look, man, I'm getting more and more into tabletop role playing as I get older. It's taken me a long fucking time to kind of get around to it, but all the digital stuff and the new D20, which is working in Discord now, is very, very, very cool. I'm digging it. Bulbul says, Jaffe, are you disappointed with the new Dragon Age release date trailer? We're actually going to be watching a couple of trailers towards the tail end of the show, and I've actually saved that. I haven't seen it yet. I scrubbed through a bit of it, and it was, it doesn't look very good. But I just kind of barely looked at it and moved on with my life. Oh, Louis Love. Yeah, this is a great video if you haven't seen it. And I don't know how planned out this was, but he's asking about basically what is Dungeons and Dragons if you haven't seen it. And she's a hardcore D&D player. And she literally right then and there, without dice or anything, just kind of walks him through a scenario. And you can kind of see him lighting up, right? You can kind of see him going, oh, I get it. This is fucking cool. This is fucking cool, man. And as somebody who's watching it, if you've not played D&D before, I assume it will light you up as well, because it is really fucking cool. So maybe we'll watch it later on this show or a different show. But for now, let's move into some. I think we're at the Wukong part. Let me check. Well, first I wanted to show this. I don't know. Does anybody care? Is this just one of those things that gets clicks, but nobody's really upset about? People have, quote, discovered, like it's some kind of big secret, that Assassin's Creed Shadows, the new one coming out next month, uses some of the same animations as Assassin's Creed Mirage. And this is one of those things that people complain about, right? But it's not really a thing anybody gives a shit about. I mean, correct? Like, you are aware that people reuse shit all the time. And if they don't, the games would take longer, they'd cost more. And is your enjoyment of the game really affected by the fact that the jump animation is the same in one game or the other? Ravno says no one cares. FromSoft uses the same animations in every Souls game. No one but shitheads care. Dylan says this is so stupid. Games have been reusing assets since the 80s. Okay, so good. I'm glad. I'm glad that it is a who gives a fuck kind of thing, because I am seeing people complaining, and you know how it is. You don't know what on the internet is real and what is not, blah, blah, blah. Okay, good. Well, let's not spend any more time with it, because I don't give a fuck. I'm excited to play the game. And we'll see where it goes. The Elemental Hero says, I mean, if they're copying the same moves into the game, why not use new moves? Well, because it's a jump. I mean, you know you're going to have to jump. Why reinvent the animation, right? Okay. Let's move forward, though. I want to talk about this first, and this will tie into Wukong, because Wukong is the meat of today's show. But I want to talk about this briefly, and then you'll see in a second. Speaking of Ubisoft has been accused of using bots to get people excited on social media about the new Star Wars games. And people have kind of collected these and put them together, and you can kind of see it's pretty much the same goddamn thing. It's clear whether it's an actual robot doing it or it's just social media people doing it live. I don't know, and it doesn't matter. And it's annoying, but you can kind of tell when it's bullshit, but you can't always tell, and it's annoying. Well, the FTC came out and announced a rule banning fake reviews and testimonials, right? So I don't know when this goes into effect, but this is a story from Friday. So it's a brand new thing called a final rule that will combat fake reviews and testimonials by prohibiting their sale or purchase and allow the agency to seek civil penalties against knowing violators. So all those kinds of things will start to go away, at least as it relates to American companies. Now, who the fuck knows if this is going to affect other companies? And in this case, since we're going to pivot to Black Myth, the companies that are making games like Black Myth. I know Game Science is the developer. I don't know if they're also the publisher. But so does that mean that if an American social media company does it knowingly, they're on the hook, so they won't let it happen? I have no idea. But the bigger point, though, is something is up with, maybe nothing is up, but something seems up with the Black Myth Wukong reviews. I got three pillars of this theory. That this is just, it's very strange how inconsistent the reviews are amongst the different outlets. And again, it's not about, am I happy or unhappy that a game gets a fucking review score? I don't give a fuck about review scores unless I was the one developing the game. It means absolutely nothing to me. So I'm not upset about that. And the answer is not, oh, well, Jaffe, it's just a review. Everyone's going to have their own opinion. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about three fundamental inconsistencies, really two at this point. One's been kind of cleared out. And I want to go into that because it makes me wonder. I don't know if you guys have heard about, and this is not about whether or not you should buy the game based on the reviews. We'll know in a couple of days based on word of mouth and people streaming it. You'll know if it's something that you want. I'm more fascinated about why it is so inconsistent. This is like, I don't know if I've seen a game that's been this inconsistent. Is just weird to me. And I want to talk about it. So I don't know if you guys have heard of the 50 Cent Army. It's not, what's the guy's name? What's 50 Cent's real name? You know, it's not that guy. It's not the In the Club guy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about China has a government propaganda arm where they pay freelancers, usually teenagers and young adults, to go out onto the internet and do propaganda for the People's Republic of China, the Communist Party. And they get paid, they call it 50 Cent Army, because I think it was what they got paid for an hour of work. Or I don't remember the specifics of why it was that. But I have found, and I know this is true, and I know this is true because if you look at this very channel, I very much am always grateful for anybody who watches anything I make on this channel. But whenever I talk about Wukong and whenever I put God of War Creator in the title, because I know that gets the hits for that particular subject, I get flooded by a lot of people from China who are commenting, which is great. I'm sure there are some real folks that are actually commenting. But it is so interesting that it is, so much of it feels like propaganda. Like I'll say, oh, I hear this is a boss rush game. And it's just like, you know, flies to honey. No, it's not. No. The developer said this. It's like they're ready with data. And it's like they're a PR agency that's just ready to jump on anything anybody in the comments say. And I see this also on, you know, forums when people are talking about the game. It's like there's this defense force that I do think is perhaps coming from China. And it's not that's, I mean, I think as long as you know it's out there, who gives a shit? But in this case, it's weird because it's the first time it's been so bizarrely inconsistent and in that maybe so bizarrely or so brazenly out in the open that this is being manipulated. So right now, if you look at Metacritic, it's this game, the embargo's dropped late last week, Thursday, Friday. It's sitting at an 82. There are 41 outlets that have given it positive, 8 have given it mixed, none have given it negative. There is absolutely no review for the PlayStation 5 at this point, except, actually there's no review. For the PS5 version, those codes have not been released. They'll be released when the game actually drops. So is that concerning? Yeah. IGN China gave it a 10 out of 10, but they put up, and today they put up footage, which I'll show you, which is supposedly from the PS5 game, but that's not even the weird part. That's not the fucking weird part. So I want to show you, or I want to go through some of this stuff. By the way, just say this is what the Insight Intelligence Group writes about the 50 Cent Army. It says currently the bulk of observers regard the 50 Cent Army as an oddity on the internet. As the CCP continues to aggressively spread propaganda on foreign social networks, its trolls pose a severe threat to global political stability, economic security, personal safety. The CCP is significantly more involved in shaping Chinese public opinion online than many people think. The CCP has assembled an army of over 20 million part-time network civilization volunteers is what they're called, as well as 2 million paid commentators with the objective of amplifying content that supports its rule. And the majority are college student volunteers who were assigned by the Censorship Bureau to oppose negative information in their spare time. And this is weird because if you're an influencer and you wanted to get a code for this game, you got sent, I'll show it to you, I'll put it up on the screen. You got sent, I'll get to the chat in a second, I promise. This is the Black Myth Wukong launch campaign document. And I got this from NeoGAF, so I'm assuming it's legit because whenever I get things like this for campaigns that want me to play something like I did #Blood, I'm playing Tavern Simulator right now, you get stuff like this. And it says, here's the stuff you can and can't do. And the reason I don't do that many of them is I usually go, well, I'm going to be honest, right? So, you know, I don't have to take your money, but I'm not going to lie about shit. But it's like, here's what you don't do if you want the code. Don't insult other influencers, fine. Don't use offensive language, whatever. But do not include politics, violence, nudity, feminist propaganda, fetishization, and other content that instigates negative discourse. Do not use trigger words such as quarantine or isolation or COVID-19. Do not discuss content related to China's game industry's policies, opinions, news, etc. Right? So this is out there. It's clear. I got an email the other day from, well, I got 2 emails. I got both from China and both related to Wukong. One was from a woman at some gaming magazine, and she reached out and she said, because of your relationship with God of War and because of your streaming and because you've, had some really big videos about Wukong, we'd like to do an interview with you. I said, yeah, great. Absolutely. She calls me back. Or not calls me back. She writes me back 2 days later after we were getting done setting it up and about to do it. And she says, "Oh yeah, we're not going to do that now." Right? Like something happened, where she probably got a little information from me about me and was like, "Okay, this guy, no, we're not gonna do that with this guy." Right? I also got an email from this controller company that makes controllers, like really high end controllers, and they said, we want to send you a controller. Can you play Wukong with this controller and talk about it? And, we probably had 4 emails back and forth. And I was like, yeah, of course. That sounds great. Your controller looks cool. And then I did say, though, Eddie T says she saw I got stuck on Metroid Dread. I did say, though, I said, hey, look, by the way, so, I'm never mean, but I'm not going to lie, because she's like, okay, talk about how this is the controller and it does this well and this, that, and the other. And I said, well, I won't lie. I said, I'll play it. I'm not going to be mean about it. But there's no way I'm going to say something that I don't feel. And they just went dead. Radio silent. After like 4 emails back and forth, dead. Right? So this is going on out there. And it's not just in China, but it absolutely ties into the Wukong reviews, I think, because I have never seen reviews this inconsistent. Okay, so I'm going to put on some footage from the game in the background. I have a different document where I've cut and pasted the various parts, and I'll tell you where they're from, and I have them up if you want to see them, but I figured you don't want me just like reading this shit. In fact, I'll go to the chat first. Let me put Wukong just looping in the background, and let me get this document ready to look at. Because I think there's some really interesting things in this document that is just, it's really fucking weird how inconsistent this stuff is. But let me run to the chat first, and then we will get to that. All right, here we go. Here's some Wukong. This is from Before You Buy. The Before You Buy guy seemed pretty stoked on it. So game rings, right? Let me look at the chat first. Okay. Jaffe says, Ravnos, it's because you said you have no problem with Chinese people, but their government can fuck off. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if they know that, but how would they? I mean, again, I'm not worried that they know that. I'm not like, how would they know that? Hang on, this screen is not showing you everything. Hang on. I'm just more like, don't you guys have bigger things to pay attention to and worry about than what some random, mid-level streamers saying? But whatever. Will Wukong be ignored at the Game Awards like Hogwarts was, says JJ. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. I have no idea. I don't think Hogwarts was, look, I have no idea. You guys know I am anti-J.K. Rowling. I'm a Harry Potter fan. I mean, I'm a little old for it. I wasn't a kid when it was out, but I've liked the movies and in my engagement with it, but I don't like J.K. Rowling at all. I think her stance is really shitty, blah, blah, blah. But I'm happy to separate art from artist, but not everybody is, so maybe that had something to do with it. But I heard a lot of people saying the Harry Potter game, besides just being the biggest game sales wise of last year, was really good, but I don't think many people were playing it and going, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this. This is a game of the year contender. But at the same time, to be fair, neither was Spider-Man 2, and I think that was up there. So Eddie T said he would do the interview and be like, I'd be like, Wukong, oh yeah, that's where COVID leaked from, right? Yeah, that's totally what I would do. Death Proof says these marketing business folks have strict policies when dealing with YouTubers. Yeah, and they should. I mean, they're getting something out of it. They're giving you content for your channel. They're giving you money sometimes, and they have a right to say this is kind of what our business model is, and you have a right to walk away from it. which I always do, but I'm in the privileged position I can afford to walk away from it. So, okay. You have said stuff like this for years is how they know it, says Ravnos, talking about China. They have to scour people's socials or they will lose social credit score if they interview a CCP detractor. Interesting. Cool. Fuck them. I don't give a fuck. Hello, Kata. I don't give a fuck. I'm what you think I really need a controller that bad that I'm going to, make myself look bad in the eyes of my kids by just sort of fucking my morals just to get a controller for free? Go fuck yourself, China. If that's what it was about. But I mean, come on. Okay, this game, 80 plus bosses with different combat. Okay, so let me get, speaking of that, Black Ice YouTube, let me read your comment, but then I'll get to the first point of this though. He says, this game, 80 plus bosses with different combat challenges. It can get repetitive. One boss down. Okay, now next boss. You're doing this more than 80 times. Yeah, my understanding is, because I haven't read Journey to the East or West, whatever it is. My understanding is this character, the Monkey King, has almost like the Herculean challenges. He's got like 81 challenges that he has to overcome, but they're all in the form of bosses. But we'll talk about it. Why do you hate China for no reason, bro? China is a better country than U.S. Trust. Oh, okay. I was wrong, guys. I don't hate China for no reason. And I don't hate China. And I don't hate the Chinese people at all. And I think China has done and continues to do some amazing things in all kinds of different areas. Entertainment and science and medicine. I just find their human rights issues abhorrent. But I find a bunch of shit that America does abhorrent too. I'm not saying that America is some kind of, bloodless country that doesn't do anything bad. Sure they do. But I got nothing against the Chinese people. And I will say one thing briefly. I don't want to get into this too much, but one thing I'll say about it is that it's nice that you have a country that has that many resources, but isn't kind of stymied by the kind of puritanical religious bullshit that a lot of countries in the West have. So they are able to do science and medicine that are sometimes a little bit like, dude, you need more regulation on that shit. You're going to let this guy come from Italy to China and do a head transplant on a living person? Are you insane? But they also do a lot of great innovation because they aren't limited to bullshit like Jesus doesn't want you to use stem cells, right? Anyway. Okay, let's move forward though. That's not what we're here for, although we can talk about that later. Over on the Twitch, we have, Pub Monkey. Hey buddy, he says Hogwarts was fun, but not game changer in gameplay. I agree. I absolutely agree. He also says pre-ordering this game makes no sense in the day of digital. You do not need to save a copy for yourself anymore. The only reason I would ever pre-order is if it's something like you get 3 days to play in advance, so that's good for the stream, or if there is a piece of content, like if I'm really into the brand, like, oh, Indiana Jones, not that I'm going to pre-order because I have Game Pass Ultimate, but Indiana Jones, oh, you get the Marion Ravenwood chapter or something. Then I would look into it for sure. Okay. No joke. Death Proof says, no joke. I'm a truck driver and you'd be shocked how many meat and produce plants are owned partially or through a proxy by China. Oh, tons of our country here in America are owned in part by China. It's going to be bad if they come to collect the bill when we're not expecting it. Absolutely. Okay. Let's focus now. So the first thing that struck me is weird on this was I have been trying to find out for quite some time what kind of game Black Myth Wukong is. And there has been a relatively big piece of inconsistency. There's been a lot of inconsistency in the media when people are trying to describe what this game is. And for me, and by the way, this stuttering is not my stream. This is the video. Or I mean, maybe YouTube, but I don't think so. So I'm trying to figure out, is this a boss rush game? And I don't want a boss rush game. I'm still going to get it, but I do find that now, finally, I'm starting to see, whenever I bring up, is it a boss rush game, I get all kinds of people hit me up in comments from China going, it's not. And I'm like, okay, cool. Just relax. It's fine. But basically, if you go over to VGC, they've played 11 hours of it. They don't have a review of it yet, which I'm not sure why. But they say, Black Myth, here's their headline, Wukong is a beautiful, if slightly boring, boss rush game. They say the game's lush levels are usually wheel and spoke, in which one central area leads off down a few paths leading to different bosses. Beat all of these bosses, which are like mini bosses, interact with the gimmick of that area, and head off to the main boss of that section. There are smaller enemies in the areas between bosses, but they serve very little purpose other than to work out a few combos before the big battles. We actually think this is a bit of a shame because it means that these incredible looking areas are quickly forgotten about as you're led towards boss after boss after boss. So it is, according to them, and I trust them, a boss rush game. This is also coming from Windows Central. They say, indeed, it's best described as a boss rush, with each of its fights as visually striking as they are engaging and challenging. So it's a boss rush game. Sorry, don't care. I don't care what the comments tell me anymore. I don't care what the Reddit for this game says. It is a boss rush game, and that's fine. And I'm actually still probably going to get this game. That's not what's going to hold me back. Brian says, I've never heard of a boss rush game. Do you have an example? For me, boss rushes come, and I'm sure you guys can speak to pure boss rushes. To me, boss rushes come, though, like the first one I ever experienced was a 16-bit game I tested called Skyblazer. And at the very end, before you got to the final boss, you had to refight every single boss that you already killed, right? That was my first introduction to the concept. But then there are boss rush games that are more, it's all about just fighting boss after boss after boss. And there are, so some people are saying Cuphead. I guess Cuphead did have a boss at the end of every stage, but it wasn't just like, it was just the boss. You still had like the flying level before you got to the boss that you fought when you flew. I mean, Ghosts and Goblins, maybe we have different definitions. If you guys just mean there's a big bad guy at the end of every level, that's kind of not what I mean. If the level is compelling and interesting and then there's a boss, I don't have an issue with that. But regardless, that's not what's going to keep me away from this gorgeous looking game. Okay. But I just want to be clear. This is the least offensive part of why these reviews have been confusing, is that at least a couple of the reviews have come out and they've been very clear on this is exactly how this game is structured. And thank God, because I didn't know and I couldn't find the data. And whenever I would ask, I would get a deluge of probably 50 Cent Army people coming at me and saying, no, you don't understand. Okay, great. All right. But that's not where it really matters. Here's the two that really, I can't explain this away. And I'm hoping you can explain this away. Yeah, Kyle says boss rush is fighting pretty much only bosses with little to nothing in between. Wayne B says all I care about is the bosses. Right. It's not a bad thing. It's just that when I saw this game presented for the first time, I was more excited about going on a really cool action adventure. And instead it looks like it's more of a combat game. Brian says it sounds interesting. I hope you stream it. I will. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So here's where it gets confusing though, which is the game's performance issues. I do not know how to take this. I don't know what to do with this data. Let me just read you a couple of these and how incredibly inconsistent this is. VGC says, what cannot be denied is how impressive the game is visually. And everybody's playing on PC, by the way, because no one has the PS5 code except the developers. They haven't gone out yet. What can't be denied, says VGC, is how impressive the game is visually. We were playing the game using top-of-the-range PC with an RTX 4090, and it's easily in the conversation for one of the most visually impressive games ever. We don't think there's a PC in the world that will crank it up all the way and still get 60 frames, but we got pretty close with only a few dips in some visually intense areas. Okay, sounds fine. This is IGN. IGN is saying it's stunningly gorgeous. They gave it an 8 out of 10, IGN. Its combat is fantastic. It's incredibly challenging, but always satisfying. And the setting is refreshingly unique. Despite all of that, it often feels like it's barely holding it all together. I suffered numerous crashes on PC, despite having a top-of-the-line setup with a G4 RTX 4090, not to mention the multiple times I fell through the ground and died just as I was on the verge of defeating a particularly tough boss, or the way characters would randomly switch from English to Chinese, or the way dialogue audio would drop out altogether and leave me completely in the dark during a cutscene. It's a rickety roller coaster for sure, and there were definitely spots the whole ride where I was having a great time, but taken as a whole, this is one adventure where the bumps are worth it. So, I mean, this is a guy, okay, so first off, we're getting two very different, and there's more of these, there's legion of these, but let's just be clear. VGC is basically saying it ran great. IGN saying we ran it on the same thing you ran it on. We didn't notice any of those problems. Or IGN saying it was all kinds of problems with the way it ran. We fell through the level. Audio cut out. It was chunky and stuttery like a motherfucker. But you know what? We're going to give it an 8 out of 10. And I'm just like, what? What are you talking about? How does a game with those problems get an 8 out of 10? But let's move on. IGN China gives it a 10 out of 10. Fine. I don't take it. It's China. What do you want? Okay, we've all heard about the screen rant, but let's go to the screen rant one. I'm not going to talk about the diversity. There's a whole video on this channel about the screen rant review as it relates mostly to the comments about diversity in the game or lack thereof. But this is about, listen to this. This is what she writes. From the reflections in the rippling water to capturing the veins on every single tiny leaf of flora surrounding you, it is a shame that due to its appalling performance, it isn't possible to see and appreciate the visuals. These fatal flaws consist of frequent stuttering, severe lag, desynced audio, terrible frame rates. Aside from the frustrating amount of stuttering, the frequent cutting of audio also heavily impacts your experience, especially during boss fights when you're relying on cues. With the recommended specs for the game, that should allow for optimal performance. Many areas from Chapter 2 on are entirely unplayable and become only marginally better when on the lowest graphic settings. Now, again, they gave it a 3 out of 5. But how are you... This sounds almost as bad as Cyberpunk when it comes to its stability and its ability to work. But in IGN's doesn't sound that bad, but it still sounds pretty bad when it comes to the technical issues, and they gave it an 8 out of 10. Screen Rant gave it a 3 out of 5, and they said from Chapter 2 onward, their area is entirely unplayable unless you drop it to the lowest graphic setting. I don't understand. Polygon says this. Performance-wise, I reviewed the game on PC with an NVIDIA... Listen to this. They had a lower graphics card, RTX 380, Intel 10900K. I don't know what any of this shit is. I experienced smooth performance at 4K resolution and with higher graphics settings selected. Note, I wasn't able to try ray tracing since we were told there were issues with it. Okay, so they had a lesser graphics card, but maybe a better GPU or CPU, and it ran great. God is a Geek gave it a 9 out of 10. They said, Black Myth is replete with stunning environments and bombastic cutscenes. Playing with an RTX 2060 8GB graphics and Ryzen 5 3600X, and then he says, hardly cutting-edge technology, I was able to run the game in 4K with settings on high, and I experienced very few stutters outside of cutscene transitions. I have had no slowdown or lag while playing, even during boss fights. Considering how fast and responsive the game is, that's impressive. What the fuck are you people playing? It goes on and on with this inconsistency. Combined with the hefty amount of performance issues and bugs, unfortunately drag it down. That's from RPG Times. They gave it a 7 still. And finally, PC Gamer, which you would expect to know better, says... It's a shame that I had to muddy any of the visuals down by knocking down my settings to medium on an NVIDIA RTX 4090. It fixed my issues without tarnishing too much, but there's a chance the experience could be even worse on launch day for people with less extravagant graphic cards. And then they turned around and gave it an 87. So I don't understand. I don't understand why, and I'm not a tech guy. Okay, like I will be getting this game on PC and I will be playing it on PC, but I'll be streaming it through GeForce because I'll let them worry about that. And I'm sure it'll look great. And if not, I'll return it, but I'm sure it'll look great. Oh, Brad, I think the game looks great. But again, what version are you talking about? And that's what I'm asking you guys. How can you have a game with professional reviewers These aren't just like, oh, my friend posted a review on Steam because he didn't have his drivers updated and so it didn't play well for him. These are professional reviewers, some of them working at PC Gamer, a lot of them that are kind of, into this tech shit, and they're getting incredibly inconsistent performance. Even when their hardware is worse, they're getting better performance than people whose hardware is better, and it's still not affecting their review score. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10 and they're falling through the world. The game is stuttering. Screen Rant gave it a 3 out of 5, and they said that there are parts of the game after Chapter 2 that you literally can't play unless you drop it to the lowest settings, and even then it's barely good enough to play. It's not about that. Ravno says people need to understand IGN doesn't write reviews. People do. It's not... It's again, this is not subjective. This is absolutely not about... I liked this and you didn't. Oh, how dare you like something I don't? Or I'm mad you didn't like something I was looking forward to. This is a level of inconsistency. Frankly, I mean, have you ever seen something like this? In the reviews? And then when they come out and say, oh, and we're not even going to let you see the PS5 version. IGN, like I said, IGN China posted a boss fight, but that's it. How is this acceptable for anybody? How is this acceptable for these journalists? Carlos Ponce beats the fuck out of me. He says, if the performance is so bad, how is it at 82 Metacritic? I don't know. I have no idea. Bizzotti says it's possible they're all playing on different settings and the game gets really buggy at the high end. I would agree, but you've got reviewers saying I was playing it on lower graphics cards on the highest settings and it was great. And then other people like IGN saying I was playing it on a beast and the goddamn thing was stuttering like a motherfucker. Are they bot reviews, Nawdog? I don't have any evidence of that. I don't have any evidence of that, but I will tell you, it wouldn't surprise me. The older I get, the more sure I am that, it's pretty easy to buy a person in terms of their integrity. It sucks, but it's true. It sucks, but it's true. I'm not saying they were, I don't know. I honestly don't know. When you're talking about China that can go to Disney and say, make changes to Star Wars because it's offensive to us to have a black Jedi or whatever. It's the rumor. It's not official, but a lot of that shit. What you think IGN or any of these other companies, Screen Rant, are able to stand up to China when fucking Bob Iger and Disney can't? You do not buy an 8, says Ravnos. I don't understand. You do not buy an 8. I don't understand. I had performance issues with Elden Ring first came out, but the game was so good I kept playing. Oh, I get it, Carlos. Absolutely. I don't agree. No, I don't. TJ Triz, that's, he says, look up Sweet Baby Inc. president speech. They got rejected in the speech she gave. They are capable. No, they're not. The one thing I will push back on this is this idea that people are still walking around with the narrative that Sweet Baby Inc. tried to motivate people to run a hit piece on these guys because of their agreed upon. I mean, I agree. The things the studio has said are misogynistic. They sound like not wonderful people when it comes to those aspects, but cultures are different and whatever. But no, there's no, $7 million. All that's bullshit. There's absolutely no value in throwing your lot into that narrative because you have no evidence of it at all. But regardless though, and people are saying, oh, well, they had different builds. Who has different builds? How does that work when you are a game company and you send out the same build to everybody? You don't send out build. It wasn't 700K. It wasn't anything. You have no, I mean, let me ask you this. Does it bother you guys that Sweet Baby story, you have no evidence of it? You have no receipts. You have no body on either side. It was one story on Chinese social media that was not from any credible source, and it never came up again. It doesn't bother you that you're running around parroting that story with no evidence. I know it fits a narrative you like, and it fits a narrative that may even be true, but you have zero data for that, and you're just saying it. That's not good. Come on, you know that's not good. Jaffe, I wanted to mention Black Myth has some localization issues. The Chinese version has a few bugs. The English and other language are experiencing crashes, Leon says. Yeah, no, I know. That's what the reviewers are saying. And if you're and somebody said, am I correct in saying that the IGN review, the guy said he's going to update his review after the PS5 version because he doesn't think it runs very good? Jaffe, you don't really care about data, or you'd accept the 50-cent Solja. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the 50-cent Solia data. What is that? I'm not sure. Victor says, this is what I'm saying. Victor says the guy contradicts himself. He already hate this game because the game come from communist China. Victor, are you from China by any chance? Let me just ask you, Victor, point blank. Are you from China by any chance? And by the way, while we're waiting for an answer from Victor, yeah, no, I know you're saying their PCs were different. And again, I get it. But when you've got these guys literally saying that my PC was great and it ran like shit, and someone else says my PC was suboptimal and it ran great. I don't understand that. Jaffe, the person is not wrong, though. Look at what's happening to Black Myth. That article was saying this and that. It doesn't matter, though. You can, then say that, sure. Then you can have that opinion. That's fine. But you don't get to just lie about shit. I mean, you can, but you shouldn't expect anyone that is, a serious person or who cares about the topic to take you serious. I'm waiting for this Victor guy. Victor, what are you talking about? Where are you, Victor? You're nowhere. Let me ask you this, Victor. Are you one of the 50-cent army? Are you a part-time propagandist that gets paid to go around and fuck with social media? Look, I'm buying the game. I think the game, assuming the reviews for PC come out and I can run it great on GeForce, I'm buying it. All I'm saying, though, even though there's stuff about it that I don't like, okay, but I'm excited by it. It looks amazing. And it looks like it's a lot of fun, and I'm curious about it, and I plan on getting it and streaming it. So don't fucking come at me, Victor. Be a fucking man and actually, where's this coming from? But you won't say shit, Victor, will you? Because you know what you're doing. And it's fine. It's your job, man. Do your job. Great, do it. But don't act all pissy when somebody fucking calls you out on it. Because it's fucking true. It's fucking true. I agree, One Winged Angel. Don't act. It's not. Yes, I don't want to get into politics other than what we've already said. But me complaining about certain aspects of the Chinese government has nothing to do with me going, oh, America's hands are clean. Are you out of your mind? But yeah, the game looks beautiful. I'm excited to play it. The combat looks great. Here's the other thing real quick, which is the other inconsistency thing. And this is a little more subjective, but it's weird that it is so... what's the word? Inconsistent. Okay, which is about the difficulty of this game. Victor, did you say anything wrong? Yeah, you said something wrong. Did I say I hate this game? I'm excited for this game. I've made 4 videos about this game. That doesn't mean I can't be critical of this fucking game or critical of the inconsistencies in the reviews. And here's an example, good Sir Victor. The difficulty of this, is inconsistent. VGC says this: the game really stands or falls on the strength of its bosses, and so far it's a mixed bag. There are some extremely challenging, visually interesting fights, such as the second chapter standoff with the sword-wielding tiger, but the game's relative lack of difficulty, even over halfway through, means that you're spending very little time with these amazing bosses. We didn't die until late into the game's second chapter. We're not saying that games like this need to be some kind of hard-as-nail grind, but we were very surprised by just how slow the ramp-up in difficulty is. It makes bosses, which look great and are often accompanied by interesting attack mechanics, very boring due to how quickly we steamrolled them. Okay, here's Windows Central. Each of the fights, as visually striking as they are engaging and challenging. It is far from the hardest action RPG I've played, but don't expect to walk in the park either. Okay, well, that's just a difference of opinion. IGN says, when I say it's more forgiving, I don't mean it's any less difficult than a From-style game. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that between this and Elden Ring Erdtree, I had more difficulty getting through Wukong's toughest challenges. But at the same time, those challenges never felt unfair, and overcoming some of the tougher boss fights was always satisfying. Screen Rant says the irony behind the statement, they were talking about how the developer says that women can't play Souls games, is Black Myth Wukong is among the easiest of Souls-like games, and may have overestimated its ability to hang with those games in terms of difficulty. While thematically and stylistically it undoubtedly falls under the category, it does not quite fit the bill in the technical skills required, such as in games like Elden Ring, Sekiro. RPG Site says the game isn't that difficult on the whole, but it is inconsistent. PC Gamer says it may have a lot of signifiers of a Souls-like, but wields its difficulty in a more playful, approachful way. It gets rid of a lot of the punishing difficulty synonymous with Souls, positioning it as one of the best games to recommend to anyone who has avoided them because they are worried about how hard they are. As it relates to this, and then I'll go to the chat. Screen Rant talks about shrines. The vital rest points are inconsistently placed, showcasing a lack of consideration and strategic thought in how players can most effectively travel. Black Myth Wukong artificially pads its runtime out by introducing unnecessary convoluted challenges between shrines, often placing them extremely far from boss fights. Okay, but then if you go to it may be PC Gamer again, they're saying checkpoints are never more than 30 seconds away from the bosses. So what the fuck is happening? You've got, is it a boss rush or not? You've got, is it difficult or not? And more importantly, you've got, does it run like shit or not? And I'm just kind of like going, I'm not shitting on the game. I'm here for the game. Unless something happens between now and Tuesday or whenever it drops on the 20th, and it's kind of like, holy shit, man, these guys are trying to pull a Cyberpunk or whatever. I plan on buying the game, and I'll never finish it because it's probably too many bosses for me. But what bothers me is the absolute lack of consistency. And it doesn't bother me like I'm offended. It bothers me like, what the fuck is going on? Some people in the chat are saying AI wrote these things. Maybe. I mean, maybe. Michael Murphy says, I was also very confused reading the reviews. Lots of discrepancies between them. Right. I'm worried you're going to ask all these questions without going balls deep into the game. I don't need to go balls deep into the game to determine, does it crash and do I fall through the world? And does it stutter to the point that it's not playable, like IGN says? I don't need to go balls deep into the game to determine if it's too hard or too easy. And I certainly don't need to go balls deep into the game to determine if it's a boss rush or not. Those are all pretty clear, no matter how deep you go in. Nugget says, my interest in the game is lower now with the easier difficulty and focus on bosses. I enjoy the time between bosses much more than the bosses themselves. I will play the game. And I will tell you the other thing, though, is what this has me interested in doing, honestly, is going back to Wolong, which I really liked this game, and it came along at a time when I was just, I was really busy playing a bunch of other stuff, but what I played, I really, really liked, and even though it was very, very difficult. Yeah, Fentazin says, let's agree to only goes balls deep into Custer's Revenge. That's right. But yeah, it makes, even though I know this doesn't look anywhere near as good, it actually kind of makes me want to, I'm kind of jonesing to play the Wukong, but I'm like, I have this. Maybe I'll play this weekend because I'm kind of feeling it, And I did like this. This was the Ninja Team Ninja, right? No, this was the Ninja Gaiden team, which is, I forget. I get them all. There's the Hell Soul Blade guys and then these guys, but whatever. Slay says maybe different graphic cards and PC combos. Yeah, but they list what they are. They list what they're playing on. So anyway, but we'll see. Anyway, that's my thing. ZX says I used to force myself through games even if I'm not having fun because I need the full picture to speak on it objectively. Yeah, I don't care. I mean, I'll never lie to you. I'll never tell you. There are very few games, even ones I have like almost 1,000 hours in, like Hearthstone or Marvel Snap, that I claim to be an expert in. I will never claim to be an expert in any game like this, ever, ever, ever. Only the games I've worked on. And even then, there are some parts of those games that I'd be like, ask Eric or Derek or Corey. I don't fucking know how that combat thing works. But no, but I'm not that. There's too many games to play. I'm much more of a breadth kind of gamer. But sure, yeah, if you want somebody who's going to speak to a level of nuance and expertise of every game they talk about, then as much as I love having you here, this ain't the channel for you. How many copies of this do you think this will sell? How many copies? Not this, but you mean... let's just take America, because there really does seem to be this Chinese pride thing going on, and I can't tell how much of that is 50 Cent Army and how much of that is propaganda and how much of it is a genuine pride in their a really important story to their culture being told in such a mainstream way. So if you take that out of it, I would say this is probably going to do about... Well, I don't know, man. If the PS5 game tanks in terms of performance, it'll be lucky to get to 1 million. But if it does, if it runs well, and I'll show you, this is what it looks like running on the PS5, according to IGN China. Is this it? Yeah, this is a boss fight. Hang on. So this is what IGN China put up, saying this is coming off the PS5. So if it plays as well as this looks on PS5 and it's not loaded down with the bugs that we're hearing about the PC, I'd say it could definitely do a couple million at full price. But these games never do much more than that. I mean, even one of the best of all time, maybe the best of all time, Bloodborne, which I know it's not the same game, but I don't anticipate this being some kind of massive hit or anything. No. I think a lot of Americans are illusioned with their own country. I think disillusioned. So they LARP as our enemies, sometimes just as a kind of fuck you to the system. What? I don't even know what that means. Yeah, Hidden Agenda, it's not out yet though. Do you have a vested interest in this game selling well? When people type stuff like that, it makes me wonder. And I'm not being a dick. I'm not trying to call you out like an asshole. I'm curious about the psychology. Like when you say, this is what you say in the chat, Hidden Agenda says, this is already breaking record pre-orders on Steam, my dude. This game is selling like hotcakes. Yeah, but it's not out yet. And if it comes out and it gets hammered because of performance, don't you think that's kind of going to be all she wrote for a lot of people? I mean, some people will wait for the patch, but not a lot. Wei says, here's the thing. Almost everyone in Asia grew up watching Journey to the West. It will probably pull non-gamers in who buy it just for collecting. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Is that real on PC? I don't know. This is what IGN China says. So, okay, let's move on though. So this is coming out. I will get it. Unless, like I said, the only reason you won't see me playing this is because it's just the PS5 version or the PC version is buggier than they say. Otherwise, I'll be getting it and playing it this week. Soak7 on Twitch says the benchmark may be misleading as well. It's most the ones the developer Game Science put out a benchmark that lets you see if your PC can run it. It's mostly environmental with no action. It's a good point. Pub Monkey over there says seems like reviewers are either fanboys or girls that will overlook negative things like tech issues or believe these will be patched so great on a steep curve. Okay. Okay. Yeah, somebody's going to mod in Winnie the Pooh as the final boss. Absolutely. Although, if you ask people in China, they say, oh, Xi or Shi, however you say his name, really doesn't have a problem with being called Winnie the Pooh. That's propaganda. It might be. I don't know. Michael Murphy says a lot of people get so hyped by games that they can't fathom it might not be great, so they need to defend it at all times. It's odd behavior. It's only odd behavior if you're talking about somebody who isn't self-aware. I think the minute you become aware you're doing it, I think we've all done it. Most of us were a lot younger. Then you go, oh my God, what am I doing? I've become like a warrior for some billion-dollar corporation. But yeah, they're going to ban the Winnie the Pooh mod. I mean, good luck. Good luck. Say anything but China leader has no issues, says Pub Monkey. Yeah, I don't know. That's what he said. I don't know what he means. Okay. Let's move forward, though, okay? I probably won't be playing it. I'm on a retro quick, says Robbo. Performance won't affect a game this popular that much, says Gugs, unless it's truly brutal. Remember Hogwarts Legacy? That thing got over $1 billion with major performance issues. I don't remember that game having. I mean, again, I'm not saying it didn't. I don't remember the media talking about the game crashing a lot, falling through worlds, all that stuff. Was that a Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy problem as well? But like, if they did represent women 80 levels in, even you agreed it's not fair to judge a game. Are you talking to me? I don't care that there are no women in this game. I mean, there are, but I understand the value and the need for diversity. And sometimes that diversity has to be sort of dragged into the future because people are, assholes. But I don't think that that's a requirement. It's certainly not a requirement for me to enjoy this game that there's got to be a preponderance of female characters. No. I don't like what the team and the leader of the studio said about women. But I'm not friends with the guy. I don't have to hang out and have drinks with him or anything. Okay. Panda Obey says no crashes, no fall off the world. What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't understand. Panda Obey, what are you saying? Are you saying there are no crashes and you don't fall through the world in the PC version? Or are you talking about Harry Potter? Bulbo says, Jaffe, if people think you're against China, you speak your mind of Saudi Arabia as well when it comes. Yeah. And I also speak my mind against America. Most people who are in power are assholes. And they treat their people only as good as they have to treat them so they don't have a revolution and they get their heads chopped off. That's pretty much it. It's pretty much it. Jaffe, please do research before I speak like a journalist. All the Chinese tweets were mistranslated. What? Be specific. What tweets were mistranslated? Can you mention one? Please talk bad about North Korea. North Korea seems, from what I know, it seems like a fucking nightmare, like a shithole. I think somebody should fucking take little Kim down fast and furious. I think the guy's a nightmare. I think it's the weirdest kind of mass hypnosis that's ever happened in the world. I said, no. Okay. He's saying, you said the Screen Rant review was bad because they rated the game off the first 2 chapters because they're No, I didn't say that. I said that I didn't say the review was bad. I said that it was confusing because they said that the first 2 chapters they could play, but there were tons of issues and they could only play beyond the 2nd chapter if they turned the settings all the way down, and still then it was barely playable. And then I was like going, okay, so that's the game that you just gave a 3 out of 5 to? Something seems suspect there. My issue, like I said, with that review wasn't the diversity issue. That's her opinion. She can do whatever the fuck she wants. She's her own person. Go do what you want to do. But that is almost mathematically just weird. So we'll see. What's my opinion about Activision drama? What's Activision drama? I don't know what you're talking about. All right. Shall we move on? Are we ready for that? Okay. Well, let's move on. I mistyped China's citizens can't say anything negative about the leader. So they say he has no issue. Oh, I see. All right. Let's move forward, shall we? Okay, what's coming up? What else do we got, boys? We got some other stuff here. Well, I want to tell you, this says tease. I'm supposed to tease something to you. I want to tell you that we're about to talk about this scientific study that does a pretty good job of explaining why a lot of hardcore gamers may very well have a problem with woke culture. All right, so let's get into that in a second. But before we get there, I want to let you guys know, there's the study right there. I want to let you guys know, coming up this coming weekend in Tampa Bay, a weekend from this weekend, our very own Day One Patch Kids Rotten Tanuki will be at the Tampa Bay Comic-Con. It's one of his first ever Comic-Cons. If you are there in town, stop by, see the man. Why would I do that, you ask? That's not a problem. I can give you an answer. Because he makes the goddamn Day One Patch Kids. Here's the Sweet Tooth shirt he made. I got a picture of him right behind me. Okay? These are basically Garbage Pail Kids meet video games. You can get them on hats. You can get them on onesies for little babies. You can get them on anything you goddamn want. You get them on a goddamn flag. Come on now. And it's not just Sweet Tooth. It's all your favorite video game characters run through the machine of what if they were nasty, gross, and weird as fuck. That's what the Day One Patch Kids are, and I highly recommend you checking their shit out. Link tree below in this video, as well as swinging by the Tampa Bay Comic-Con on the 23rd through the 25th. And I think he said if you say Jaffe sent you, you'll get a, I don't know, pickle tickle or something. I'm not sure. But something. I also want to let you know another of our God of War members put this video up recently. This is from a show about 3 days ago, but it's worth playing again. It's a game he's created. Here's what he says. He says, Jaffe was the guy who inspired me to seek a career in professional game dev via his 1997 Sony PlayStation Underground Volume 1 interview. I didn't know this, by the way. He says, back in the day, I sent him a letter, a set of instructions, and a TI-85 calculator loaded with the first couple games I made. The package never made it to him. No, it didn't. But a woman named Laura Dyson at Sony told me to go to school for computer science. So I took her advice and set about my game dev journey. 27 years later, Jaffe played one of my games and he digs it. You goddamn right. This is a minute video from a show the other night. I'm going to put it up real quick and then we will move on and talk about this study. By the way, JJ Sayin says, Jaffe, I live in Tampa Bay area. We'll be at the Comic-Con this weekend. Please stop by. Please stop by and see Rotten Tanuki and tell him Jaffe sent you and I report back. I want to know what bonus you get, or if he was just pulling my leg, but I don't think so. All right. I'm going to go get a drink while I play this. It's a minute and a half. I will be right back, and then we will kick into a new story. But watch this. One of our other God of War members who likes to go by the name Swapfire. I don't know if I can tell you his real name. Well, it's Jeremy. Fuck it. I won't tell you his last name. Swapfire's the game he's making with his pals. You can get a look at it and probably let you into the early access. They're not selling it yet over on Steam. It's relatively early in production. They're looking for play testers. If you can get on over there, I'm sure he would appreciate you jumping in if you have the Steam and giving it a shot. It's kind of a very cool idea. We played it on the stream, like I said. It is kind of harkens back to the 1v1 couch competition games from our youths. Check out the trailer for Swapfire right now. It's cool, it's interesting, it's different, and there's a game coming up a little bit later in the show that is similar, but in a lot of ways, I think this one is stronger, believe it or not, when you look at sort of the amount of people working on this versus what we're going to show a little bit later. All it does is show you that end of the day, it's all about the gameplay and nothing else. So check out Swapfire. The link for that will be below this video. All right, there you go. I guess you cut it off right there. But that was from Jeremy. That is Swapfire. They're looking for playtesters. Check that shit out. Okay. Thank you for that, Jeremy. Thanks for putting that video up, too. I mean, a piece of chocolate. Give me a minute. I know eating on the stream, not good. I don't do breaks here, man. Come on. I got to have a little bite, little whatever. Shut up. Here's the link, by the way. Let me put it up in the chat for you. If you're curious, this is over on Steam. Yes, we'll look at the Dragon Age trailer in just a little bit, actually. Okay. There's a study that came out, and they wanted to assess, are good-looking people, do people who are empirically good-looking tend to be more or less video gamers? That was their question. That was what they wanted to find out, okay? We investigate the relationship between physical attractiveness and the time people devote to video computer gaming. Average American teens spend 2.6 of their waking hours gaming, while adults, it's 2.7. Using the American Ad Health Study, we show that adults who are better looking, however they figured that out, have more close friends. Arguably, gaming is costlier for them, and they thus engage in less of it. Physically attractive teens are less likely to engage in gaming at all, whereas unattractive teens who do games spend more time each week on it than other gamers. Attractive adults are also less likely than others to spend any time gaming, and if they do, they spend less time on it than less attractive adults. Using the longitudinal nature of Ad Health Study, we find supportive evidence that these relationships are causal for adults. Good looks decrease gaming time, not vice versa. Isn't that fascinating? So what they're basically, I mean, here's the gist of it, right? The gist of it is, are you good looking? I mean, then the world is your oyster. If you're a good looking person with pretty privilege, according to the study, not me. And they're not calling gamers ugly, ZX. They're not saying if you're a gamer, you're ugly. They're saying if you game a lot, chances are you're not as attractive as the people who don't. Because if you're attractive, you have better options. Right? It's one thing to go into a video game and lose yourself in the fantasy world when your real world is good or shit. But if you got pretty privilege and you can fuck any chick at the bar, may as well go do that. Doesn't matter how good Black Myth Wukong is. That's all I'm saying. And I don't know. I don't know if this is a bad thing or not. You know, I think it's only a bad thing if people get mocked for it. It's like, look, I talk about this all the time. You know, we like to pretend it's not real, and you can counter it. You can counter the fact that you may not have pretty privilege with charisma or being interesting or smart or being wealthy, depending on what you're trying to go for. But end of the day, the pretty privilege is a very real thing. And, you know, it opens up doors that otherwise aren't going to be opened unless you work your ass off. And I get it. I think it's like, I'm glad there are video games then. I'm glad video games exist. So people are like, you know, because I mean, think about what they're really saying if you shame somebody for the study or being one of the quote losers of this study or the unattractive people of this study. It's like, you know, leave people alone. Let them have an out. It's like all the people, it's so much about, well, you shouldn't do that. You should touch grass. Why? Whenever a lot of people touch grass, it's a shitty fucking experience. Leave them alone. Let them have a fucking good goddamn time in the video game world or online. Where they, you know, but people don't really want them to be healthy. They just like, well, I like it better when I could lord over you my pretty privilege or my rich privilege or whatever. And again, I know I see people in the chat. I get it. I'm not saying that there aren't attractive people who play games. Hey, I play games. All right. I know, pretty good looking guy. But according to the study, and it's one study, according to the study, it is, there's a real connect there. I don't think Randy Orton's good looking. I know what you're talking about though. There was that interview he did with Cody Rhodes? And talking about how much of a gamer Cody Rhodes used to be. And now Orton, because he had a lot of free time, became a massive Elden Ring fan. It was a funny interview, absolutely. Yeah, people that, well, no, I don't agree with that. Steven Johnson, I thought you were going to say people that are good looking, but Steven Johnson says people that like themselves don't spend a lot of time in a fake world. First off, I think every world that we know of is a fake world, but let's assume we're talking about the general definition of the real world. I don't know about that. I like myself quite a bit, but I love being in virtual worlds at times. I love having that control, and I love having that freedom to do things that in the real world comes at too high of a cost. I don't think that has anything to do with what my like for myself is. Yeah, Arian says it's a tricky topic. There's so much more to this than the surface that they talk about. No, there's no doubt. I mean, this is literally just a study, but I think it's worth talking about only because it feels accurate. It feels like there's more here than just the study. Of course, there are limitations on studies and things like that, but I don't think we can deny this. A lot of us like to live in video games to escape because the real world, whether it has to do with pretty privilege or financial privilege or just luck of the draw and opportunities you didn't get, why would you not want to live in a world that gets more and more and more realistic or believable? You know, I've never been the guy that's understood the shaming of those people that are like, well, the real world's kind of shitty right now. Yeah, I want to spend time in a world that's totally controllable, that's based on the shit that I like. You know, why not? That who wouldn't? Bold Alpha Wolf, I almost totally agree. He says, easy to see the correlation between attractiveness and isolation. There's this old movie on it called The Hunchback of Notre Dame. You know, that's old movies based on an older book, right? By Victor Hugo. You know what else Victor Hugo wrote? Very famous Broadway play. Well, he didn't write it as a Broadway play. Les Miserables. Come on now. You know what I think, says Stephen Hawkins? What's that, buddy? The real world is not shitty. What? The real world has its good and bad. And depending on your privilege, it can, you know, there's good and bad. That's all I'll say. You know what I think? People are lonely and fucking depressed in this day and age because they are glued to social media and they don't know how to fucking communicate properly, regardless of looks. I think that's some people. But I also think that we are living in a... Look, I think social media has done so much harm when it comes to dividing people. And it's made a lot of the wealthy people make money off keeping us divided. And in that, it's made the world a rougher place to hang out in and enjoy. And in that, yeah, I get why people would kind of turn inward. Okay. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. And if you're curious about it, I'll put the study down here and the links. This is the PDF. Go give it a read if you like stuff like this. I mean, you know, kind of like you're saying, I don't know. I think this will work for you. It may not. I may have to find you a different file because I opened it as a PDF, but we'll see. I'm not, Stoner Joe of all people says the real world ain't that bad. I'm not saying the real world is bad like that. I'm saying that, how do I put this better? Here's what I'll say. If you could step into the Matrix and or the holodeck and have your fantasies fulfilled 24/7, or you could live in the real world and work a job that's fine, go home to a relationship that is like any other relationship, has its ups and downs, struggle a little bit with money points in your life, who would not be more attracted to the fantasy world as long as the fantasy world was satisfying? I think there's this knee-jerk thing that we do where we kind of label, oh, touch grass, live in the real world as noble, but I don't see how that's any more noble. I think everyone's always just trying to get a good experience before they expire. Yeah, I agree, Robbo. It's really too bad our society puts so much emphasis on wanting to have more and more and more. That's true. Arathizzle says the fantasy world cannot be satisfying if there's no failure or bad things. There are failure. There is failure and bad things. The difference is the real world, it's stacked against most people. The fact of the matter is the lie that we get told, which is work really hard, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, follow your dreams. I'm not saying there's not good advice embedded within there, because there is great advice embedded within there. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't try if you have a goal. But the older I get, the more it's clear that there are institutions in place that make things incredibly difficult and hard for many, many people at various points in their life. And I like that there is a technology that comes along that says, you know what, I'm kind of tired of giving a shit about that. I don't want to chase after your fucking definition of a good life anymore, because I have options. And I think that's pretty great. Okay. Yeah, meditation's great. Absolutely. Okay. Let us move on. I'm with you, Stephen Hawkins. Sorry to eat. I'm sorry, guys. He says, I just know I would be a basket case if I grew up in this goddamn era. I remember when the phone was attached to a fucking wall. Yeah, it's true. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I liked those days, but I mean, I'm sure kids today like these days. We just can't relate because we're not kids. Okay. Let's look at some trailers, shall we? This is a trailer that just dropped. Well, actually, no, we'll start with Dragon Age, the Veilguard, because I have not seen it yet. I've scrubbed through it. I've heard people being pretty negative on it, and from me scrubbing through it, I can kind of sort of see why. Let's give it a watch. This is the new Dragon Age. And Jeff Star, thank you for following over there on the Twitch. I appreciate it, buddy. Here we go. Neo Berlin trailer is coming up next, actually. Okay, here we go. If I can just change the goddamn screen.
You have no idea what you have done. The blighted elven gods walk free, all because you disrupted my ritual.
You battle against gods. They will not rest until you are on your knees. Fearful, cowering, helpless in the face of such power.
Rook, you've got this. I've seen your work. You're clever, adaptable. And you don't know when to quit.
You want allies to go after the gods? I've got places to look.
Where do we start? I'll be damned. A griffin. In war, victory. I'm ready.
I've never seen this before. There's something kind of exciting about it. What is happening to me?
I mean, I think it looks fine. It's I was a fan of Inquisition. I know a lot of people did not like Inquisition, but I was a big fan of that game. But this just looks fine, and I don't mean that like it could be game of the year for all I know. But from a standpoint of just what I'm seeing, there's just a lot of generic stuff that I've seen many times before, and especially because Halloween is really fucking busy, right? Or October is busy, especially if you like horror like I do. You've got the casting of Frank Stone is coming out. The Until Dawn remake is coming out. Probably one of the big Xbox games, indie or whatever. Maybe Starfield DLC. So this is going to have kind of Baldur's Gate hype, not hype, but reviews to get me to give a shit about playing it. Because it just kind of looks like between Baldur's Gate and Dragon's Dogma 2, I kind of feel like I'm good. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm not super excited for this. But if you are into Dragon Age, I'm not a big dude with the lore, so there's a lot I don't know. But all right, this is Neo Berlin. This just dropped. This is I think it's like a brand new team, so I think it's one of those things you got to be careful about. This is their Gamescom trailer. I haven't even watched it yet, but people are raving about how it looks. So let's see.
I know you wanted me to use this channel only in emergencies, but I can hear them again. They're coming closer.
She's here. She's somewhere in this sector.
But I had to discover what lay beyond. I had to see it with my own eyes. Who are you?
I'm here to help you. My name is Nolan. I'm a special investigator. I work with your father.
Help me.
We gotta go. Now.
I never asked for your help. Why are you risking everything for me?
I'm not gonna let them hurt you, Natalie. This city needs someone like you.
I never asked for any of this.
We'll find a way.
I hope you're right.
I am doing whatever is necessary to keep you safe.
All right. Yeah, okay, I'll wait. I mean, who knows? I think the characters look a little bizarre. I know some of you guys are complaining about the head sizes. I think for me, honestly, because Cyberpunk is now Cyberpunk and it's pretty much finished and it can look as amazing as your hardware, you're gonna be real hard going after that kind of. And I'm not saying it's an open world game, but it's gonna be hard to create a competitive Cyberpunk world that is as satisfying, which means you better have something you're bringing to the table that's different. And right now they're not really making it clear what that is. So I'm interested in that. I'll keep an eye on it, but I really don't know. Is it Max Payne? Is it like a Uncharted Cyberpunk game? Like, I don't really know what it is. Ravenous says this is fake. Darth Nugget says it looks like someone who used a bunch of generic Unreal Engine assets. Well, what's wrong with that, by the way? I mean, I don't understand. I mean, don't we love that? Don't we love that we're in a world where, you know, you don't need teams of 500 to make a game like this anymore? I think it's cool that if this is a team of 10 people or 15 people and they're like, hey, I have this cool story that I want to make playable in a cyberpunk world, you know, we can get a bunch of off-the-shelf stuff and still be able to be creative and stuff. I don't know why that's a disqualifier for some people. I have no issues if they make a great game, says Kyle. Some people think it's just lazy, and sometimes it is. Yeah, but I mean, so is greenlighting a $300 million Ubisoft game that's just based on, you know, Far Cry again. I would do it all in pixel art and watch everyone bitch about it, says Steve. Well, that's the thing. You can't make anybody happy, really. But anyway, we'll see. All right. If they can make gameplay feel special and unique, then sure. I'm just saying it's got that look. And yeah, I mean, this doesn't not remind me of that. What was that game that had Bright in the title or Blight in the title? And it was like a sci-fi shooter. And it was made by like one guy. It kind of has that flavor to it, right? And I couldn't play that for more than like 30 minutes and I was done. And I probably didn't even stick with it for 30 minutes. Somebody said Megan Fox. I don't think she looks like Megan Fox, but you see that new Megan Fox trailer where she plays the robot? Okay, so Kyler says this Bright Memory, right? This game is being made by 5 people. Let's look them up real quick before we go into the next trailer. 1 second. Elysium Game Studio. All right, 1 second. Let me look these guys up. Let's see what they've done, if anything. Here's their site. Let's take a look. Are you going to watch the Star Wars Planets trailer? What is that? You mean from the Ubisoft game? Sure. I mean, I'm excited enough to get a 1-month subscription to Ubisoft Plus. I don't have a lot of high hopes for that game. Just because I've seen stuff that you guys have seen, like the opening mission, and it's just kind of like, eh. But then other people are saying, oh, that's not a really good representation. I don't fucking know. You're gonna kick Megan Fox out of bed for her weird looking thumbs, really? You're like Eddie Murphy in Boomerang. Had a perfect 10 in the bed, and she had a bunion on her toe, and he's like, yep, I'm out. Come on now. Who are these people? It's a third and first person narrative detective thriller. That's worrisome. Third and first person. They're not always easy to do well on their own. But who are you people? Who are you people? AAA veterans, experienced game devs, infinite passion. Okay, you're not really telling us who you are then. You're not really giving us any information, so fuck it. Okay, let's move on. I want to look at this trailer. This is Hollow Body. They're saying it's Cyberpunk meets Silent Hill 2. What? That's what I said. Haven't watched it yet. I wanted to wait and watch it with you guys. Let me ask you before we get to that. I have not an argument, but a different way of living than a buddy of mine. We go out to dinner. And I was raised, and I don't mean raised like I think it's polite, although I think it is, but it just seems, maybe it's just so, part of me now that I don't even think about it. But when you go out to dinner with somebody, and let's say you get your dinner first, and theirs is still in the oven, do you just eat anyway, or do you wait? Like I always wait. Like if I went to dinner with Ravnos, big fat chance, and my pasta came and his steak didn't come, I'd wait. I'd let it just sit there because it's the nice thing to do, right? Yeah, Pub Monkey says you wait. By the way, Jeff Star, thank you, buddy. Jeff Star, why can't you be more like your brother Jeff Star 63? Subscribe with his Prime membership over on Twitch. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. Very generous, buddy. Yeah, everybody says you wait. So my friend's just wrong. I'm going to let her know. I always waited because I was taught that shit in school. Yeah, eat cold slop to be polite, says Ravenos. That's right. Okay, One Winged Angel says, nah, I eat. I know it's rude, but I don't give a fuck. Okay. I'd eat, then leave as Ravnos gets his food. Yeah, well, Okay, here we go. Hollow Body release trailer. Let me get my beautiful visage off the screen and let's watch this together. Here we go.
Don't let her go. I'll be here before you know it. I promise.
I need to tell you something.
You're thinking about it too, aren't you? Would it really be that bad?
She's still out there, Tax. Somewhere. Scared and alone. I don't want to die here.
We're burying fucking bodies, man. People. They don't deserve to end like this.
I guess I'll see you after. Hey, we're doing this on our terms, not theirs. Tell me, is she still alive?
You're safe now, little sparrow. Mother will keep you warm.
I dig it. I dig it. Cool. I mean, you know, it looks very old school, but I like old school. And you know, I was reading this somewhere, I don't know where, but one of the things about horror gamers are they're like horror movie fans. And I don't think it's a lack of options. We have lots of options in horror, but I think it's just we're much more forgiving, or we don't really require that level of visual fidelity. Like people are like, oh, her walk looks weird, or tank controls or whatever. But like, there's a sequence in here. Although if I see another fucking fuse box in a horror game, I can die and never have to see another one. I don't understand why it's like a union rule. But why graphics have to look like shit, says Rabab. They don't look like shit. They don't look photoreal, but I mean, what looks shitty about this? It looks, you know, it's cool. I mean, I just don't understand what you mean. It's if my answer to you, Rabab, would be, why do people have to have visuals that look photoreal? Why can't you open your mind to sort of different things and different styles, right? But regardless, as the tank control, like there's this thing where she turns around. I don't think it's tank controls, but you have to admit, though, that controls that are a little less fluid do make sometimes for better horror. Now, I don't know if that's intentional on their part. I'm looking for this part where she does this corner, right there, right? If you had like normal controls, you wouldn't have that fear of what's around that corner. And things like that are of value, I think. But we'll see if the reviews are terrible or if the demo is bad. You must render generic shell 24 from scratch every time, or else says pop all the music. Yeah, for sure. Pub Monkey says comic book fans are similar. We will forgive weirdness or abstract if it's a well-written story. Right. Hipsters pretend to love retro, says Coolius. Well, this isn't retro to me because I was a fucking adult working in games when this was the norm. I just love horror, and I want more of it. Games don't have to be photoreal, says Prince. In the 16-bit era, we had to use our imagination. In the 8-bit, it was the same. Gamers are too spoiled on graphics today. I mean, I don't. Oh, is the Twitch chat subscriber only? Oh, it's not supposed to be. I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't change that back. Let me fix that. I don't know. We don't really usually get a lot of Twitch viewers, but I'm sorry if you're over there watching. It wasn't supposed to be. I lost my train of thought. About being spoiled on graphics. I mean, I don't know. I think core gamers don't care. I think what the great graphics have done have basically brought in a lot of people that are not necessarily, it doesn't mean they're not gamers, but I think most people who are really into video games really will play anything if it's cool. But I think if you're more of a casual kind of, you came up with PlayStation and that's what you're used to, then yeah, I guess. But, I think this looks like a lot of fun. There was another game that came out. I always forget the name of it. About 18 months ago, that was very old school Resident Evil 1. And this woman gets out of a bathtub at the beginning and she's had like her arm cut off. And there's these, I forget what that was called. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I agree with you, Steven. Gameplay is king. Horror has a different feel with graphics like a B movie, says Hawkins, where it doesn't need to be high fidelity. Often lo-fi and grainy is scarier. That's true. I agree. Speed Freaks. The game Speed Freaks. I don't know what that is. Let me look at it really fast. Hang on. Un momento. By the way, before I get to Speed Freaks, would you like to know who the richest game developers are in the UK? This is kind of amazing. This is kind of nuts. Here's the list of the rich, the 30. I'm not going to give you all 30 of them, but I'll give you the top 10 wealthiest people in video games in the UK. Okay. Let's see. Where'd it go? All right, here we go. This is number 10. David Braben, who created Elite. It's worth $175 million. Sebastian Knutson, come on now. Best known for Candy Crush, worth $225 million. Neil Taylor, I guess, owns the store Game, which is like GameSpot over there, $230 million. Mel Morris, Candy Crush, $312 million. I'm going to save number 6 for a minute because that's crazy, number 6. Lior Schiff is number 5, Solitaire. Sam and Dan Hauser, the Hauser brothers, Grand Theft Auto, they're worth $350 million. Ricardo Zacconi, Candy Crush, $410 million. Herman Narula does Virtual World, $780 million. Igor and Dmitry Buckham at $1.2 billion. They're best known for some game called Township I've never heard of. But listen to this. Number 6 is Gary Newman from Gary's Mod fame. He's worth $350 million for Gary's Mod fame. Come on now. Okay. My best friend from high school who died in 2016 would only watch horror on VHS. Oh, yeah. I mean, I get it. I'm sorry your friend died. Obviously. Yeah, and that's something with Gary's Mod, though. That shit's crazy, man. That shit is crazy. All right, Speed Freaks. Is that like a game trailer? Like the old... Oh, you mean Warhammer. Oh, yeah. I mean, I've played the demo. I'm not playing that. It's a free-to-play game. I mean, look, unless it's gotten really good. I mean, have you guys actually played the game? I played the demo and I thought it was very eh. But if it gets really good, then sure. Who's been playing it? Look at this thing, Somber Echoes. We should do a new trailer watch along soon. I like trailers, man. Sometimes I like trailer. Oh, this looks really good. What the fuck is this? Somber Echoes looks good, man. All right, Speed Freaks. Let's see. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I'll just put it on while we're talking. This is Speed Freaks, which is basically Twisted Metal Warhammer. Who's played it? Anybody in the chat? If it's worth playing, I'll give it a play. I tried to play Fortnite today because Fortnite has the Marvel stuff up. But they're slammed. It's the first time I ever saw a queue in Fortnite. Ooh, your birthday's on Halloween. Nice. I can't wait either. I'm excited. You know, my dad died on Halloween, and it's long enough ago that I love my dad. I miss my dad all the time, but it's not like a sad day for me. But I think it's kind of cool he died. If he's going to die, better, think about that. It's pretty cool. All right. Well, maybe I'll give it a try. Maybe I'll try tonight, depending on what we do. And it does look a little, the version I played in the demo, this looks a little bit more controllable. Like, whereas what I played in the demo was very swishy, like it just felt very janky, whereas this feels like the cars have a little bit more weight and might be more controllable. So, okay, my friends, my Filettis, Soak 7 alpha tested it, wasn't awful. Okay. You did miss Braden the Wukong stuff. That was all front loaded, but here's what I'll tell you. That's the show. That's the show, my friends. I will be back with some other content this weekend. I have an I Love the Weird prepped. I just got to figure out I have all the stories prepped. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about all the stories yet because I got to do a little more research. But that may be happening this weekend, but I'll be doing something for sure tomorrow. So hopefully we'll see you. In the meantime, consider a like on the channel, a follow, a membership, either on the YouTube or the Twitch, with the Twitch Prime, all that good stuff. And thanks for watching, and hit me up in the chat, either on Discord or Twitter or in the comments if you have any ideas on how to make the show better. I would appreciate it. And there you go. I'm done. I'm off. I think we're going to go watch Umbrella Academy season 4 or something. I think it's season 4. But be well, you guys. Seriously. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you soon.